Hi lovely friends, I'm Jibid and I have a sewing journal to show you. This is a little 7 by 4.5 TN insert and chunkier than I would normally do an insert, but the lady said that it's not sharing its cover with any others, so I've gone a bit chunkier. So let's show you the charms while we're here. Some little scissors, and you have to forgive my inky nails again, I'm sorry. I hate having dirty fingernails, but needs must today. I didn't have time to paint my nails for you, and I think there's a couple more inside. So apart from it being a sewing journal, she wanted some Beatrix Potter and autumnal colours and the make, do and mend era, which I'm not sure if that was a thing outside of Britain, but it was during the wartime and post-war, like 40s and 50s. It was about you know, recycling and reusing the things that we had to save materials and expense. So that fits in well with junk journaling, of course. So it wasn't the easiest things to marry together, I have to say, but that's the things that she likes, so that's fine. Whenever I make myself a journal, I just put the things that I like in it. I never follow a theme. So this is what we've come up with. So because of the sewing, I've used the Tailor of Gloucester, which is a really lovely story. And I've put here a little charm for the tailor's keys, because he shuts up the shop to go home when he's feeling tired and unwell on that particular day. And apart from that, there's nothing on the cover, it's just scrapbook paper. And let's go inside. This is a little photograph that she wanted using of, I think she's called Letty, the little dog. She looks like a little fox. Really funny little creature. Very cute. And okay, so a little needle packet. This is the personal info. I've done it as a sleeve. Some journaling cards with, they all have stitching and stamping. I've done several takes of this video already, so after I got cut off, I decided I'm going to be very brief. So there was a few other things that I was talking about earlier, but I'm going to try and skip through a bit quicker. For the colours, with the autumnal thing, I've used this very orangey, kind of a scarlet red. This has been in our sewing box since I was a little girl, and I hardly ever use it, but sometimes it's just perfect, and for this project it was perfect. It kind of spoke to me of that 40s and 50s era. It's a very kind of orangey red, like a vermilion. And the page edges, I have inked most of them, which don't normally do, but just to bring in that autumnal a little bit more. And I've used Vintage Photo. Vintage Photo, which whenever I use it, I always think of Miss Dubois sitting on her porch under a cloud of smoke. That's what it reminds me of. I think Vintage Photo should be renamed. If anyone at Ranger is listening today, you should call it Miss Dubois. I have some embroidery. This was intended to be a little poppy field. I don't know that it looks much like poppies in the end, but I thought it looked sweet. And this is Vintage Ledger, which was sent to me by the lovely Catherine. And I wanted to keep these original swatches. These are beautiful woolen samples from the Harris Tweed Company with the original pins. This idea was sent to me from Susan, thank you Susan, who suggested printing cross-stitch patterns on graph paper, on tracing paper. So that's that, looking very sweet. And this is another picture from that same children's book, there's Squirrel Nutkin. And this was another idea that I saw on Pinterest to use. Flower samples was another thing that the lady requested. So I've used this one like this and just sewn a frame with embroidery thread. And thank you to Nazi for your lovely ideas about stamping corners. I really like the way that Nazi had done a recent, I think it was her boho collection of little journals, and I really like the way she'd done her inking and stamping. I think that she actually has magic fingers, because that same week that her collection came out, I was looking for a particular brown, and I always use walnut stain and vintage photo, and that's the two that she said that she uses. So I think she does something a bit magic with them, because I don't know, mine don't look the same. What I'm trying to say is that I've inked with vintage photo mostly. I did also buy from Versafine a toffee colour, which I've used a few times. Okay, so some journaling cards. That's a little purchased cross-stitch tag, and I've enlarged these cotton reels and put stitching around them with graph paper on a lot of the tags to go with the sewing theme. This is an old sewing pattern. Some little bit of collaging here with a button and a snap fastener. And because she said that she wouldn't be doing much writing at all, so that is just folded over from the sewing pattern bit to make a decoration here. Yeah, so because she said she wouldn't be doing a lot of writing, I've put some of the buttons on the pages, which I don't normally do because of bulkiness when you're writing, but didn't seem like that would affect her. This is one of those needle packets that I've enlarged much bigger than it should be, but I think it's come out really nice, and just use it as a little envelope. Valerie Brinchek from the Somerville Crafts blogspot. You can get the download there. This is a tray cloth that I thought had some really lovely embroidery on it, and I've added to both sides some writing paper and just stitched that. Graph paper on tracing paper, some little flags, a little button envelope, and I've attached a magnet, so that just sits on there. That's sewing paper, another sample, more graph paper. This is just covered the whole page with pattern paper, sewing pattern, and a little journaling card inside. These lovely, I nearly said sweeties then, they're not sweeties, but they do really remind me of barley sugar. They're so pretty, I just want to eat them every time I see these buttons. These vintage buttons sent to me from my friend Lydia. Thank you, sweetie. They're lovely. I've used a little cutting from a gardening book for the button card. Excuse me a moment. And this is a little journaling card that I've made with several layers of sewing paper. I've put a skeleton leaf and then covered it with matte gel, and I folded the edges rather than tear them because I wanted this quilting effect when you sew round, and put some writing paper on the back. That feels really nice. I like the way that came out. I'll make more of those. This is some fabric pockets with a proper buttonhole. I don't normally do this. So that's like that. So again, I didn't mind the bulk being there for this particular journal. And of course the lovely Tracie Fox. Hi Tracie, with this wonderful idea of printing colour pictures on the tracing paper. And I've put behind this journal card a button card so that it's framed the two people here, like so. Some more buttons, and this little insert thingy is a dressing up doll, which I thought was sweet. Tracing paper again, that looks really cool. There's a little bit of collaging with a tuck space. And back to Tracie Fox, you little genius, you. In a recent video, Tracie had some vintage postcards, and on the backs, which were handwritten, you know, with the old hand, well, what am I trying to say? Writing, with writing on the back. And she has stitched tracing paper to the over the back so that you can still see the old handwriting, but you can actually write over it, which is very, very cool. I love that idea. So I've used it with this sewing pattern. This is also a book that I've had since I was a little girl. It was sent from Germany, so it has German writing. And as you can see, the tracing paper kind of blurs a little bit of the original text, so that you know, it's not too confusing to the eye. Of course, you could even make it thicker. You could put 2 layers if you wanted, or use a thicker vellum so that the background is just a little bit visible. But I thought that was such a cool idea. I really like that. So that's that. And she's very beautiful. I wanted to put her in because she's from the correct era. I don't think she's anything to do with sewing though, but I thought it looked good there. A bit more collaging, some garment tags, this very cool fabric washi, and I've used that same idea here again. This is machine stitching, and here is an envelope. That's a little bit of sewing ephemera. It's an envelope exactly the same as I've done those ocean ones that I showed you, but instead of tracing paper I've used sewing paper, so you can still see through it. I thought that looked really cool too. That. More tracing paper. This is your writing practice, and instead of putting the tracing paper like I normally do with the letters here, I thought that could be like a cross stitch, you know, like a sampler, like a reference. So I've left that like that. And you know, that could be the same really, couldn't it? There's a little wooden peg here, some more lace, some more button cards, and some collaging on this side. That's a bit of a vintage tea cloth. And I've just sewn some flower stalks here and added some button flowers and stitch around the edge. Here's a little tuck spot. That's another picture from that children's book. Got a crumpled corner. Journaling card and some trim down here. And this was, oh, I've forgotten who these are from. I'll have to link it below. So these yarn bobbin holders that I've enlarged bigger than they should be, but I thought that was quite a cool idea. I've put some hinges, as you can probably see there. So this one I've backed and stitched. This one I haven't backed, so that's thinner just to glue down. But I wanted that one to be a bit more sturdy. If I had thought this through, this took me so long to work out how to do it, but if I thought it through, that the paper hinge here could have been hidden between these two layers. So if you want to do that, it would be a better way to do it. So exactly the same like you see here, would have another one under this section, and that acts as a hinge top and bottom. Or you could even print the two close together so that there is a little bit like a centimetre joining them, which would also work. So I've stitched lace to only the front, as you can see, so that's writing space, and then I've made that as a pocket, so you could put something in there. So that turned out quite well in the end. That's that burlap type stuff. Another pocket, some random stamping. There's another tracing paper. That's the other side of the pocket. Just some machine stitch embroidery, and I've just left it here where it runs out because I think that looks quite cool here and there. There's something so cute about a red button, I don't know what it is. And red polka dot. And red shoes. Does everyone love red shoes as much as me? Red shoes, red wellies, red flip-flops, red boots. Now I think I am rambling. This is a tuck spot with some gold trim. That's the other side of the embroidery. This is like a full page, so I thought I would leave that one. It's so pretty. And this is another page from the Mary Frances book. That's a pocket. And I've used this one because it was like little ribbons. So I thought it was like hair ribbons for her long plaits. That's the tip-in. And there's a crinkly envelope here, and I've enlarged that one too. And some collaging. And I have to thank Lydia again for this wonderful trim and the laces that you sent me. It's just a little fabric sample. These lovely wallpaper, old wallpaper patterns are from one of the Etsy shops as well. I'll have to link that because I've forgotten which is which. This is the other side of the old ledger, so it has Harris here and other bits and pieces, which are very cool. I've just folded that over to this side for a pocket, and there's some vintage, sorry, not vintage, I don't think they are, just old. I've had them a long time, from the Spinning and Weavers Guild, I think, in Britain. Here I've used that idea again with the yarn bobbin holders, but I've done it this way, and I've added a little bit of a ribbon here and stitched very close to the top of the paper so it doesn't flop about too much, and added some lace here. This is one of Lydia's beautiful laces. Isn't that beautiful? Sorry, I've forgotten to turn off messages again. Okay, nearly finished. Let's hope I don't get any more. Alright, so this is another picture from the Tailor of Gloucester, and so is this Mousie here. And in the story, the tailor goes home knowing that he doesn't have enough silk to get the job done, and this is the waistcoat that he's making for the mayor's wedding day. And so the mice come in, and while the tailor is ill in bed for a few days, they make the coat and the waistcoat for him, but they leave a little note to say no more twist, which is the silk thread. And I've copied the original picture, so they leave this little note on the last buttonhole. Copied that writing, and then I thought while I was doing it, it would have been so much easier to print it out again and just tear it off, but I didn't think of that. And now my printer's broke. My printer broke, guys, so I'm in a bit of a meltdown at the moment. So I have to sort that out before the next job comes. So there's the buttonhole where the twist has run out, and this beautiful embroidery. So here's one of the mice, and then this, the tailor gives the last penny that he owns to Simkin the cat, and he sends him out to buy more cherry coloured silk. And this is exactly what that is. It's cherry coloured silk that I've just tied on here with this little charm that says silk cord on it, and a little needle packet, and on the library card is the Tailor of Gloucester. So that's that. Can't remember if I showed you in this take or in the last take. That's the little bookmark, but I've done this so that it's on a, the idea is that you would tie the end to your TN elastic to keep it in place. So this is not actually attached to this book, but that's what it will look like when it's in place. Just a little tip that if you have something like this where your hole is too big for the string and you don't want to make a really enormous knot, you can just put a little bead as a stopper, and I've just glued that ribbon on there. And this was just because you will probably have a little bit of space left in your cover, and I was just playing. So very unexciting. It's just a manila envelope, and I've just folded it and stitched some pockets and a few of the journaling cards that I didn't have room for. There's a needle packet, and that's your letter from the bookmaker. So that's, you know, you can use it if you want to. And another charm. And that's that. And I think, well, where are you going? I think that's all I have to tell you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you soon. Bye.